In this video, we are going to be covering a super common question that I get all the time, and that is, are raw duck eggs safe to feed my dog? Let's get started. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Nope, it's not how we do it anymore. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Scott from RawFeeding101.com, and if this is your first time here, make sure that you click that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss out on future raw feeding videos. Okay, so here is the topic of the day. And this does not need to be a super long video. It really doesn't, because it's very, very simple. Are raw duck eggs safe to feed your dog? The short answer is yes. Yes, they are, but there are some things that we need to take into consideration when we are going to feed them to make sure they are safe. The first thing that we need to keep in mind when feeding any eggs, whether it's duck eggs, quail eggs, chicken eggs, whatever, is, are they fresh? Are they quality eggs? Not eggs that have been sitting in the back of someone's car for 6 days, but are the eggs fresh? If they're fresh, then we can move on to the next thing. And by the way, since we're talking about raw feeding our pets and giving them fresh eggs, all those things, if you guys ever need help with putting together balanced meal plans that will meet your dog's nutrient requirements, head over to rawfeeding101.com. And if you don't want someone doing it for you and you want to learn how to do it yourself, go to rawfeeding101.com and check out our bootcamp programs, which will teach you how to make those meal plans on your own. The second thing that we need to keep in mind when it comes to feeding our eggs, duck eggs in this case, is should we be feeding the white, the yolk, or both? And lots of people hear about biotin deficiencies when you're feeding eggs every day. And that's because a lot of people do things like take the yolk out because they think that it's too much fat, which is not the case. If you are going to feed an egg, duck egg, chicken egg, quail egg, whatever, feed both the white and the yolk. This way, you will never have that biotin deficiency problem that you read about in blogs and see in raw feeding Facebook groups. The third thing that we need to take into account when we are deciding whether or not to feed a duck egg is whether or not to feed the shell. And is the shell safe to feed? Yes, it is, but only if it comes from a local source. We don't want to take our eggs from the grocery stores, as an example, and start feeding them to our dogs. The reason for that is, even if your eggs that you get from the store, if you can buy duck eggs at your store, I can't, but if you can, if it gets onto a shelf in a grocery store, it has been cleaned, processed, exposed to chemicals so that there's not bird poop and feathers on those eggs, because most people don't find that very appealing when they're buying eggs at the grocery store. So don't feed those shells. If it's a grocery store egg, even if it's organic, even if it's pasture raised, all those awesome things that we look for on the cartons for our eggs, still don't feed the shell. Go for the organic stuff, of course, if you can, because the eggs are just better overall, but still don't feed those shells if they're from the grocery store. Now, if you are getting your duck eggs like I am from a local owner of ducks, I think she's got like 40 ducks or something like that, then you can feed the shell. Yes, if there's big glops of poop on it, rub it off. Same, the feathers, not as big of a deal, but if there's something major on it, take it off. But you don't need to like scrub it with soap or anything like that. You can feed those shells if they are local, if they've never been processed, haven't gone through something like a USDA facility so that they could get onto the shelves at the grocery store. Basically, coming back to the freshness, if it is a fresh egg that came directly from someone raising that bird, you can feed the shell. If it's coming from the grocery store, I don't care what the label says, it got processed and cleaned and exposed to chemicals, don't feed that shell. Now, to recap a little bit, this does not need to be a super long, lengthy, complicated video. The short answer to are raw duck eggs safe for my dog is yes. You just want to make sure that, again, they are quality, they're fresh, even if they're coming from the grocery store, so they're a little less fresh, Make sure that they haven't spoiled, know where they came from, all those things. Make sure that it's an egg that you yourself would eat as well. When it comes to feeding the white, the yolk, or both, always feed both to avoid those biotin issues that you may or may not have read about in blogs and seen on other videos, seen people comment about in Facebook groups on Facebook. And when it comes to your shells, do not feed them unless you are sourcing them locally from someone who is taking that duck egg out of the duck's nest every day, putting them into containers, and you're coming by to pick them up. Those shells are safe to feed. Grocery store shells are not. Do not feed grocery store eggshells. And again, guys, if you guys ever need help with raw feeding, head over to rawfeeding101.com. But if you just want to talk about raw feeding, come and join the Raw Feeding 101-Learn to Feed Raw Facebook group. It is completely free. We've got about 65,000 people in there right now that are all crazy about raw feeding their pets, just like me, and hopefully you are as well. So come over there and join us, and I will see you guys next time for another raw feeding video.